Today, we are going to discuss the topic screening criteria for Sharia compliant stock. Actually, uh, before this criteria was introduced, Islamic banks were bound to invest in Sharia compliant companies and Sharia compliant firms business, but it was very difficult to find out whether a firm is completely Sharia compliant or not. Then the experts from stock exchange, Karachi Stock Exchange, and Meezan Islamic Bank, the Sharia board of Meezan Bank, and the experts from the stock exchange, they mutually developed an institution and they developed an index that is known as KMI. So KMI 30, KMI Karachi Meezan Index. 30 mean that this body, this is mutually combined body of Meezan Bank's Sharia scholars and the scholars from experts from stock exchange. They uh, comprise, they include 30 listed companies in this list, and like I will show you later. So look at here. So these are the 30 companies, and it is updated biannual, and and they rank in one, two, three, four, five, six, and their ranking basis is that first of all they list the companies or the firms which are completely Sharia compliant, then the firms whose major are the core, you can say that the maximum business is halal, and then so they rank on the Sharia compliance level basis. So they include 30 companies, and this list is distributed to the Islamic banks, and then Islamic banks invest in the stocks of these 30 companies into the stock market. Yeah, you can say the stock exchange. So this was the basic objective. So KSE and and Meezan Investment Bank Limited launched its first co-branded Islamic index that is known as KMI-30. KSE Meezan Index comprises of those 30 companies which qualify the KMI Sharia screening criteria. The index was introduced on Karachi Stock Exchange market in September 2008, and the base period for this Islamic index is June 30, 2008. It means that they started to analyze the firm's business, that whether their businesses are Sharia compliant or not. They started it from the June 30, 2008. So it was their base year. Al-Meezan Investments provide its Sharia expertise guideline. It means that the Sharia board of Islam, Meezan Islamic Bank, Sharia guidelines, their skills, and stocks screening towards the activity with regard to launching and continuation process of the index. On the contrary, KSE provide maintenance and dissemination supports for the index. So there are two aspects of the KMI. One is skills and guidelines regarding the Sharia compliance, which is provided by Al-Meezan Meezan Islamic Bank, and the other side of conventional side, maintenance, dissemination, and how to index it, and the data of the firms. It is provided by Karachi Stock, which is now the Lahore and the Pakistan Stock Exchange now. So this is the introduction of KMI 30. So what were the basic objectives of this Karachi Meezan Index? to provide investor suitable benchmark for returns on Sharia compliant equity investment. It is known as whenever anyone who invests in the stock exchange, the investment in the stock exchange is basically called equity investment. Why we call it equity investment? Because here shares of any firms are being sold and bought. Actually, what are the shares? Shares actually is known as ownership. So, because of the ownership, it is known as equity. As we know that equity is also known as owners. It is termed as owner equity. So that is why we call it equity investment. To help Sharia conscious people, Acha, another thing also was the main objective that if Islamic banks they want to invest in the stock market, they can uh, invest in these shares of the equities of these companies that will be listed into the KMI. In this way, Islamic banks will be able to invest their finance, invest their money, because as you know that there are very uh, there are very restricted circle of Islamic banks to invest their deposits side you can say because liquidity management was a big problem in the beginning and as Islamic banks have right now there are many equity markets like Skooks are here now and uh, KMI isn't here now but before the KMI was introduced it was very Islamic banks, and there was a term used as excess liquidity. Islamic banks has at that time excess liquidity because Islamic banks has no various modes whether where they could finance at that time. So it was very tough for Islamic banks to earn profit. तो ये उस वक्त इस्लामिक बैंकों के लिए बड़ा मसला रहता था क्योंकि इनके पास पैसा बहुत आ जाता था लेकिन इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए आगे जगह नहीं होती थी कि कहाँ पे इन्वेस्ट करें एंड वेयर दे हैव पोटेंशियल दैट दे कैन इन्वेस्ट हियर तो वहाँ पर शरिया कंप्लायंस का प्रॉब्लम होता था so the KMI objective the basic objective was to provide investors suitable benchmarks and it does not only guide provide the benchmark to the just Islamic banks. They also it is also very beneficial and supportive for private investors who want to invest their equities into halal business. So they also can get guideline from the KMI because as you know that there are a lot of people who are Sharia conscious. So Sharia conscious people choose the profitable stocks which are Sharia compliant. To provide a relevant benchmark to Islamic equity funds for comparing their performance. And it provides the relevant benchmarks, and we will know that what are the benchmarks, and we see in the next slides. So it provides these benchmarks. If the uh, any firms meet those benchmarks, that firm will be considered Sharia compliant firm. So KMI 30 index comprises of 30 Sharia compliant companies. Sharia compliance is ensured through stock screening process conducted by Al-Meezan Investment Management Limited and counter-checked by the capital Advisory Division of Product Development and Sharia Compliance Department of the Al-Meezan Investment. So there are two stages. First one, that Sharia compliance Al-Meezan Investment Management Limited, then its Sharia compliant department also counter check the Sharia compliance. Al-Meezan Investment provide its Sharia expertise, guidelines, skills, stock screening towards the activities with regard to launching and continuation process of the index. On the contrary, KSE provides maintenance and dissemination of the supports to the index. तो ये है कि भी कौन क्या प्रोवाइड करता है. सो फॉर एग्जांपल ये आपके कंपनीज हैं, तो ऑयल एंड गैस, इसका मतलब ये इन 30 कंपनियों की निस्बत this company is found on the top, and it was the best as per Sharia principles, that its business, core business, and the core activities are halal. So investing in its equity is permissible. और हर 6 महीने बाद ये लिस्ट अपडेट होती है.